piece of crap. My Chevy S10. It would randomly not start for reasons that have never really been understood. I'd love to know the precisely most embarrassing times not to start. Like right now, when three of the hottest girls in my town were sitting in a brand new 2001 Volkswagen Beetle convertible with the rooftop down, enjoying ice cream from Frost Me Sweet Bistro and Bakery. On a hot summer day, Frost Me was borderline orgasmic. The choice of choices for anyone with a sweet tooth or a girlfriend. Speaking of girlfriends, Casey Duran, Deirdre McConnell, Kelsey Clark. Those were the three babes in that brand new 2001 VW convertible. Gold, silver, and bronze. And here I was, coming in dead last with my piece of crap S10. As if that wasn't bad enough, when my S10 didn't start, the engine would rattle so loud it sounded like you were trying to shove a flagpole into a wood chipper. The girls all turned. They froze. They were so embarrassed for me that they put their hands over their faces and then dropped out of sight. I could try again, but I knew it wasn't going to start. The move in these situations was to give it a minute or two, try again, and then it would start up. But waiting those 1 or 2 minutes, it meant that I just had to sit there like the world's biggest chump. Each second felt like an hour. I prayed to God that maybe they would leave, but those ice creams were fresh. They weren't going anywhere until they were done. So I sat there, like the world's biggest loser, slinking down with my hat over my face, waiting for them to go. This won't shock you, but the air conditioning didn't work, which meant I had to leave the windows down. So yes, I could hear them laughing. As they should. How could you not laugh at someone's engine sounding like a chainsaw cutting through a bag of rocks? Casey, Deirdre, and Kelsey were all a year behind me in high school, but they were hotter than anyone in my graduating class. My friends and I had a running joke that the class behind us blew our class out of the water. Not that it mattered. I wouldn't have had a shot with the cream of the crop in my class either. But those three? My God. Not just hot, mind you. Cool. Hot and cool. Deadly combo. I had one brief, unmemorable conversation with Casey once. At some party. She was dating the younger brother of a good friend. We played beer pong against them. Casey wouldn't have remembered me. Beyond that, this moment of utter, soul-crushing humiliation was our longest communication. I bet she'll remember this one, though. That's how loud my engine was when it didn't turn on. 8 minutes later, yes, I was counting the minutes, they drove away. I was now free to try and start my car up again. Of course, it started right up this time. Piece of crap. This was the highlight of my summer. Driving through my town after work on a Friday. That sense of anticipation for the weekend. I wasn't in college, so people would probably think I didn't appreciate college as much as all the kids who were in school and back home for the summer. Wrong. I appreciated it more than all of them put together. My town was a good summer spot, no matter how old you were. But the first summer, after a long year of not seeing all the people I was in high school with, oh yeah. I don't know what my plan was, I was figuring it out. Not that my options were limitless. I didn't have money, my family didn't have money. My grades weren't terrible, but definitely not something you'd hang on the fridge. I was a half-decent baseball player with bad knees. 1 plus 2 equals working for my uncle's sprinkler installation business. OSS. Not a bad gig. Heavy summer hours, which meant you could make decent change. Today I spent 8 hours digging trenches for Mrs. Loge, the town golf pro. He was one of those guys that will occasionally chime in with thoughts on the best way to dig a trench, even though he never has. Which is always fun for the guy who's actually digging the trench. Not exactly your ideal Friday. Tomorrow I'm going to have to go back for the piping, cutting, assembly, laying them down, but making sure they're level and aligned. But I try to keep my eye on the prize, which is, rather than being waist deep in college debt when I'm 22, I'll be able to start thinking about buying a house in Spokane, which has cheaper property value because it's a little more urban. Between the outdoor dining, cafes, bars, local shops, farmers markets, street performers, waterfront views, community events, historic architecture, parks, it was a sweet spot for summer. The streets were packed. People were out and about. The chip on my shoulder was that I always felt like I kinda snuck into my town when the bouncer wasn't looking. Brotherhood Lounge was a spot that me and the other leftovers, a term for me and a couple of my other friends from around town who stayed behind and didn't go to college. We had really made it our own once high school ended. Because we played a lot of ball and paid our tabs, we got to drink at the ripe old age of 19 amongst some of the more polished people in town. Would Casey, Deirdre, and Kelsey make an appearance? Only God knows. And if God is real, they would. Ethel, how could you? I can't remember specifically when that running joke started. I lived on Ethel Southwest Street, which was lower income for Olympia. One random night, senior year, I think, we were drinking on my street. And Ethel had become a woman who had let me down, invented by my best friend Coop. We thought this was hilarious. That this fictional woman, Ethel, had built this shitty street for me to live on. And we were disappointed in her. Hence, Ethel, how could you? You had to be there. Or not. Maybe it's best if you weren't. But my house was pretty beaten down like the rest of Ethel Southwest. So coming home was never exactly a thrill. My road needed fixing. If you had any loose parts in your car, my road would let you know about it. You felt like you were driving on stilts. The first time I took a girl back to my place, she puked because of all the bumps. I U-turned and took her right home. Rough junior prom. Unc wants to see you. All right. I turned right back around, assuming this meant he needed help fixing the mower. This was occasionally a two-man's job and something I'd love to do ASAP so I can move on to drowning my sorrows. Graham stopped me before I headed back out the door with, he said to shower first. Shower first? In the history of me and Unc's relationship, which was my whole life, he had never told me to shower first. This must be some kind of occasion. 10 minutes later, I was out the door, clean as a whistle. Yeah, I took quick showers. I walked down to the end of my street and knocked on his screen door. Hold your horses, that was Unc's phrase of choice. I was antsy, he knew it. Labor guys on a Friday afternoon needed a beer, or two, or 12. He walked out and he told me to follow him around back towards his garage. One of the few garages around this neighborhood. That's what 3 decades of backbreaking labor will earn you. Mower busted again? Nope, mower is good. My next guess was that he had discovered some new craft beer. Unc had become somewhat of a beer snob recently. He was even investigating the possibility of starting his own brewery. This was the current pipe dream, not to be confused with his sailing school business or his artificial turf lawn business. He opened the garage. My curiosity was brewing. Unc whisked the top off to unveil the closest thing I had seen to the existence of God. Excluding Casey Duran, of course. There it was. A 1973 Chevy Nova, 2-door coupe. It had a boxy shape with straight lines, giving it a muscular and robust appearance. The front end had a prominent grille and rectangle headlights, giving it somewhat of an aggressive look. The rear end featured rectangular taillights integrated into the rear bumper. Simply put, it was badass. V8 engine. Base was a 250 cubic inch inline 6 producing 100 horsepower. 3-speed transmission, manual, ample seating for 5. Simple dashboard layout, clear and easy to read controls. Seats were upholstered in vinyl. Independent front suspension, solid rear axle, power steering, style, performance, practicality. The 73 Chevy Nova was a stone-cold American classic. God damn, that's a beautiful machine, I said. It didn't matter how many times I saw it. It always felt like the first time. Kinda like how I felt any time I saw Casey Duran. And now, it's all yours. I didn't speak for at least 5 seconds. I just stared at him. mouth on the floor. I said the only words that felt appropriate at the moment. No. He gave me a pat on the shoulder. You earned it. Unc didn't love anything as much as he loved cars, which would explain why he has never married and he has never had kids. In fact, the closest thing he ever had to a kid was me. Ever since my mom died, he had sort of taken me a little closer under his wing. Him giving me the '73 Chevy Nova was like giving me a part of his soul. Come on, Unc, how can I take this? Because I'm giving it to you. I don't know what to say. Say you're going to take damn fine care of it. I'm going to take damn fine care of it. Transaction complete, he said. I gave him a brief hug. Physical affection lasting longer than 2 seconds might make both of us die of discomfort. Are you going to be okay without it? She's been cooped up here long enough, and you need young legs to ride a beauty like her. Unc tossed me the keys. Take her out for a spin. Let her know you like her. Unc loved to talk about cars as if they were girls. Treat her right, she'll treat you right. That was a classic he used a lot. I hopped inside, took a deep breath, put my hands on the steering wheel. I turned the engine on. I shit you not. She purred. Only 2 words made sense in the moment. Hell yeah.
Cruising my town, I hear the sound, mystery of the honeybee all around. I'm a brand new man, feeling the flow, rock and roll, let the rhythm go. That's just the way I live it loud. Every night, lost in the crowd.
I might have left my body. That was the sensation I had while driving out of my street back towards town in what was now my '73 Chevy Nova. I couldn't wait to hit up the town. Everything was a blur. I felt like colors were brighter than they've ever been. Did I occasionally check myself out in the rearview mirror? Yes. Maybe once, twice, 55 times. God damn it, this car made me look good. As soon as I hit the downtown area, I felt different. Even the streets felt different. They looked different. Everything around town felt different too. It all looked so retro. There were rows and rows of old school cars parked everywhere. Had Unc known about some crazy old-fashioned car showcase? And that's why he'd given it to me today? So I could fit in? If so, bravo. But how had I not heard about this? The community was certainly getting behind it. Everyone around town was dressed up to match the era. Stores had temporary paint jobs, new vintage signs. Today it was really shaping up. Even Brotherhood Lounge was. Jake's on 4th? What the hell is Jake's on 4th? Did it change their name? Their sign? A whole new paint job on the building? Was there 2 nights ago? So whoever had spearheaded this makeover deserves a promotion. I had to get out. I knew that Coop was inside already, taking advantage of happy hour. He was going to crap himself when he saw my new whip. I walked in with a strut the size of Texas. The inside? Completely fresh. This seemed impossible. I was banged up 2 nights ago, but not banged up enough to not have seen some kind of renovation. And this wasn't just grabbing a couple of new chairs and putting up some new pictures. This was a brand new bar. In every way. Coop was nowhere to be seen, which was the most shocking moment of the day so far. The bartender, with his handlebar mustache, tucked in polo shirt into his jeans, walked over with a smile. What'll it be, buddy? Hey, Nate's not working today? Nate? Nate was the Friday bartender who had been taking care of us since mid-senior year of high school. He went to the same high school as us, and the cops were big fans of the high school baseball team, so a lot of slack was cut at this particular establishment. Today, Nate was MIA. There's no Nate here, buddy. You got the right address? These guys were really committing to the bit. I would have grown a stash if I knew we were going to have this huge retro celebration. How did I miss this memo? How did Coop miss the memo? Coop got all the memos. I ordered a beer, waiting for someone to jump out and surprise me or tell me the end to this really elaborate joke. Can I have a Lagunitas? The bartender looked at me like I had three heads. What was that? Lagunitas. What's the game here, buddy? Nate, Lagunitas, you messing with me? He was now turning hostile, and I don't think he was committing to the bit. I think this guy was genuinely pissed off that I wasn't playing along. Sorry, I said, my mistake. I walked out, not even sure what I was trying to piece together. The entire street was packed with vintage cars and mustaches. I don't know which one was more jarring. I walked along the sidewalk, and every single storefront looked different. Half of them were completely new businesses. I started to get dizzy. It had been a long day. Maybe I hadn't drank enough water. Maybe I hadn't gotten enough sleep this week. I bailed, went back to my brand new ride, and headed back home. The ride back didn't answer any questions. The whole town seemed to be in on this turn back the clock celebration, except for me. My first drive, and it was ruined. I felt bad for Unc. This was supposed to be a defining moment, one that I would never forget. That part was true, but for the wrong reasons. Where the hell did my hometown go? It was dark by the time I pulled in. I was exhausted, confused, sober, and the lights were off, which meant Graham was asleep. It was always a pain to have to sneak into my house because the door was so heavy. It would shake the adjacent wall when you opened it. And if Graham woke up, she'd get nervous and come see who was walking into our house at night, even though 10 out of 10 times it was me. I didn't have the energy to potentially wake up Graham tonight. I didn't have the energy for anything tonight. So I turned around and I went to sleep in the back seat of my new car. It was a nice summer night, why the hell not? And you know what? I slept like a goddamn baby. I couldn't wait to get back. To my car, to my town. Instead, I went back to Mr. Loge's house. Cutting pipe. Assembling the pipe. Laying the pipe down, but making sure it's level and aligned. I'm only 19, and I already feel like parts of my life are on autopilot. But my desire to get back behind my new wheel was fueling me. It was racing through Loge's yard. I had never worked harder, faster, or with more concentration than I was right now. Is this what it felt like to work on a Saturday without being hungover? Loge was so impressed that he gave me a Gatorade. He had never offered me a drink before. Piping takes at least 2 days on average. I was almost done and it wasn't even 3 o'clock. You could book it early if you want. You earned it, my friend. I'm not sure if Loge was telling me I could leave early because I did such a great job or because there was a blonde woman waiting in his kitchen. Either way, I was on my way out the door. Oh, the S10? It was still my work car. I wouldn't dare use the Chevy for transporting work materials. I actually felt bad for the S10. It was like the housewife who gets ignored when a shiny new mistress comes to town. I had never appreciated it more than I did in that moment. He served well. That's not true. He caused me a ton of headaches. But knowing that I had the Chevy Nova waiting for me at home decompressed my normal levels of automotive rage. Since I was hightailing out of there early, I figured I had enough time to drive back into town real quick and see if the retro celebration was still in full swing. It wasn't, thank God. Everything was back to normal. Brotherhood Lounge was the Brotherhood Lounge. All the cars were from the last decade or two, which meant my new whip would actually stand out and get the love it deserved. All was back to normal, and I was pretty pumped for my Saturday night. After I showered and got dressed, I made Graham get into the front seat of the Nova so I could snap a couple of pictures. She smiled like it was 1973 and even gave the middle finger in one of them. That one was a keeper. Finally, it was time to hit the town. It was almost 5 o'clock, which meant 2 full hours of happy hour remained. I called Coop and told him to meet me there. He had no idea the retro thing I was talking about from yesterday. I'm glad I wasn't the only one that didn't get the memo. I cruised through my street and hit the main road. The Rolling Stones were keeping me company through the speakers. I had a shirt with buttons, my Oakley sunglasses were looking semi-respectable. Things were looking up. And then, it all came crashing back to earth. This is not possible. The retro celebration was back in full effect. I could not for the life of me figure out how the hell they could have done such a massive makeover in such little time. All the old classic cars were back on the road. All the businesses had old signs out front. Radically different paint jobs. My barber shop was gone. Time to pull over. Swapping signs, new paint jobs, classic cars, sure. You could talk me into all that. I've seen the videos of Madison Square Garden being changed from a basketball arena to a hockey arena, which is never not kind of incredible to watch. But my barbershop building disappearing? No, not possible. I was staring at the corner of 4th Avenue and East Side Street. There was nothing there. Nothing. Just an empty lot. There seemed to be a lot of commotion behind me. The spot where my S10 didn't start, and then Casey Duran, Deirdre McConnell, and Kelsey Clark rightfully laughed at me for being a full-fledged loser. But Frost Me wasn't there. Vic's Pizzeria was there. I parked and walked over. I had to talk to someone. I needed someone to tell me what the hell was going on around here. They were all dressed like extras from Boogie Nights. The women had flowing skirts, peasant blouses, and ethnic prints. Large belts and layered necklaces. Bell-bottoms paired with heeled boots or platform shoes. Wide-collar shirts. Short shorts with knee-high boots. The dudes also had bell-bottoms, with either button-down shirts or turtlenecks. Graphic t-shirts, corduroy pants, platform shoes. I walked up to the first two guys I saw, both smoking Marlboros in identical poses against the wall outside Vic's. I started to open my mouth but then stopped, realizing I had no idea what question to ask. They saw me standing there, mouth open, with clothes that sore-thumbed the shit out of me. "Smoke?" the first guy said, holding out his pack. "No, thanks. Is something going on this weekend?" "Live and Let Die just opened," the second guy said. "Roger Moore is Bond. No more Connery," the first guy said. They exhaled smoke at the exact same time. My legs started to feel like jelly. I walked over to the wall and slid down, now sitting on the ground, trying to grasp what the hell was happening. "You all right, man?" the second guy said. "No," I told him. "Cool show at the Eagles tonight," first guy said, while handing me a piece of paper. They dropped their cigarette onto the ground at the same time and then smushed them at the same time. I stayed on the ground, holding their little flyer. This was the most sober I had been all summer, and I've never felt more out of it. Nice shades. I turned and looked up. Standing there was a girl. She couldn't have been more than 21 or 22. Looking down at me, smiling. "Your sunglasses," she said. "What brand are they?" This might have been the most beautiful girl that has ever smiled at me. "Oakley's," I said. "Oh, nice. I never heard of that brand. Was my whole town role-playing? Was I supposed to play along? Were we all Daniel Day-Lewis? Staying fully in character at all times?" Every question I had was temporarily paused to make sure this girl kept smiling at me. "Try 'em on," I told her. She took them and tried them on. "How do I look?" she said while posing. "Much better than me." "I'm Linda," she said, handing me my glasses back. "Axel." "Cool name," she said. "Thank my mom," I told her. "What's that?" She was pointing at the flyer. I looked at it and then handed it over. "Live music at the Eagles tonight. You going?" "Maybe," she told me. "Are you?" "Maybe." "Maybe I'll see you there at 9. "Maybe you will." And then she walked away. It's amazing how a cute girl can make you forget that you're almost likely in the midst of a complete nervous breakdown. It was 5:30. I had 3.5 hours to kill until reuniting with the love of my life. Time to find Coop. Make him make sense out of all this. I walked to Brotherhood Lounge, which was back to being Jake's on 4th. I walked in, same bartender as yesterday. "Still looking for Nate?" he quipped. "No, today I'm looking for..." My eyes scanned the room for Coop. No such luck. There was a decent crowd already. Some real lookers. It was lively. No cell phones, which I appreciated, since I was one of the few technological holdouts of the upcoming cell phone boom. Maybe that's what happens when you've grown up mainly with a grandmother and an uncle. You scoot towards the old school. There was a pocket of space at the end of the bar. I sat down, still feeling very much out of place. "Lagunitas?" the bartender asked. "Bud Light," I told him. He nodded and cracked one open for me. 3.5 hours was a long time to kill riding solo. I was hoping for Coop to walk in any second, but the seconds became minutes, and the minutes were almost an hour. 4 Bud Lights later, I was now adamant on pumping the booze breaks to make sure I could form coherent words for my lady Linda. The guy sitting next to me motioned towards my sunglasses. Can I ask what brand that is? Who knew Oakley sunglasses would turn into the ultimate conversation starter? This fella helped me kill some time. He was smart, a charmer, and definitely a player. He started looking around the room, scouting all the women inside the bar. He was pinpointing which women liked certain types of guys, giving his hypothesis about what each of them were looking for, based purely on how they were dressed, their mannerisms, etc. I'd never seen someone so specific. It felt like he had watched all of them before 100 times. I was secretly praying that he would be nowhere near the Eagles that night. He was working at the University School of Law in Seattle, Washington. He also worked at the Washington State Department of Emergency Services in Olympia. Oh, and he was also attending law school at the University of Puget Sound in Seattle. I was exhausted just listening to him list his jobs. I had nothing on this guy, excluding my Oakley sunglasses. There was something familiar about him, though. I couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe it was just the confidence. People with confidence always feel familiar. It took half an hour of conversation before we introduced ourselves. Alex, I told him. He reached out and shook my hand, unleashing the killer smile that would no doubt defeat me handily if it was ever displayed in front of my lady. Ted, he said. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy? From what I could remember, the guy definitely had the look down. It had been a minute since I had seen a picture of Ted. It wasn't exactly a hobby of mine to reminisce about serial killers. This role-playing had definitely taken a dark turn. Now it felt like one of those dinner murder mysteries, except this time there was no mystery. Bold choice, I told him. What's that? He said, smiling. Ted Bundy, I reiterated. That's twisted. Thank my mom, he said, laughing. I don't know what that meant. I guess his parents had a sick kink too? All the weirdness of our conversation now crystallized. Were there other Ted Bundys walking around? Was this like Halloween back in the early 90s where every other kid was Batman? He paid for my beer. I tried to stop him, but he said it was done. The bartender in Hid had some sort of secret language and he had already signed the check. I didn't see when he had done it. Ted was crafty. When he asked what I was doing the rest of the night, I said I would probably just head home. I wanted no part of him showing up to the Eagles and ruining my in with Linda. He said it was nice to meet me and that maybe he'd see me around sometime. I thanked him for the beers and he was on his way. I still had an hour and a half to kill. I walked. Even the stoplights were different. The amount of time, money, resources that my town had put into this whole retro thing was pretty astounding. Not that I can totally blame them. I'm a creature of the past too. I dig it. Hence my cell phone resistance. The amount of smokers, my God. Everywhere I went was through a puff of some kind of smoke. I killed an hour. It was almost game time. Do I show up early? Scout the bar? That might make me look desperate. Do I show up late? Be fashionable? Or maybe another guy swoops in first. Some Ted Bundy impersonating suave son of a bitch type. Tough call. Screw it. I was going to go at 9. Right on time. Let's make it happen, Linda. This place was packed. The early 70s were in full swing, bell bottoms for days. I needed a beer. To the bar I went. I got 2 Bud Lights. 4, said the bartender. I left at 5, impressed that their happy hour was still alive and kicking. The music was solid. I had no idea who this band was. It didn't matter, I was hunting for Linda. I went up and down and around. No luck. I ended up toward the back of the venue, trying to stand on my tiptoes to see if she had come in as I spread out. I got a tap on the shoulder. It was Linda. Cowabunga. You made it! She had to yell because the music was so loud. The best part of seeing live music with a girl? It's loud, which means you have to lean in close when you talk. It's an intimacy initiator. This was one of Coop's finest lessons. Maybe his finest. Linda had 2 friends, but they were keeping each other company. Within 5 minutes, they were off getting their own drinks. It was just me, Linda, and the Vipers. The what? I shouted back, inches from her ear. That's the name of the band. Oh, I like them. Me too. I could have been listening to hobos smashing bottles against their heads and it would have been bliss. What a day. What a couple of days, more accurately. I couldn't keep up. Within 20 minutes, me and Linda were making out in the bathroom. I'm not sure if it was the men's room or the women's. Both genders were inside and nobody seemed to mind our furious dry humping. She said she wanted to go outside. She could have said she wanted to go to Bolivia and I would have just nodded like a lapdog. As we were about to leave, I felt another tap on my shoulder. It was Ted Bundy, smiling, nodding towards Linda as she was stepping out before me. Well done, sir, he said. Head in there, it's a good time, I told him. It's a good times, Ted said, raising his beer. I tapped his beer and then stepped outside. I hung with Linda as she smoked her Marlboro, while more and more people walked past us into the Eagles. I smoked with her, even though I gave up smoking a year ago. She asked what I was doing tomorrow night. Hanging with you, I said. Good answer. We made out again for 5 of the shortest seconds of my life, and then she held me close and said she had to go home soon, because she had family stuff tomorrow morning. But she insisted that she wanted to hang out again. I agreed. Then she asked if I could give her a ride home. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what the Chevy Nova was built for. The ride home.
Sun is shining right there. Feel the breeze in the air. Sun is shining right there. Feel the breeze in the air. Oh yeah. Time for summertime. Feeling sunny vibes. Time for summertime. Come on, let's take a ride. Leave your worries behind you. Let's get free like a tide. Leave your worries behind you. The sun's gonna rise. Oh yeah.
Good things come in threes. Nothing explains this better than us having our third makeout session while in her driveway. She was straddling me on the driver's seat. I would have enjoyed it more if we had not been about 7 feet from her living room window, which had lights that were on. She wrote down her number on my arm, followed by a smiley face. My heart melted as she got out of the car and went inside. I saw stars, and a sign on their door aggravating George McGovern. I didn't know George, but I would have to rectify that in order to impress her parents with my brilliant political views when I met them in the near future. I looked at her mailbox. It had her name, Healy. Remember when Elliot and E.T. fly over the moon on his bike? That was me driving down the street, victorious. Screw it, I thought. I'm sleeping in the Nova again. I woke up and went for a run. I hadn't done that since high school ended. I lasted about 2 miles before getting nauseous. That's about 1.5 miles longer than I thought I would last. Were you singing in the shower? This was Graham's question to me as I walked out of our living dining room area as she was cooking bacon and eggs. How'd I sound? Like a boy who met a girl. You know me too well. Don't let her sweet nature fool you. Graham knew the ways of the women. It was her who told me that I should ask questions on the first date. Get to know them. Girls like to talk. One of her many bits of wisdom. I asked Graham to tell me about George McGovern. She told me that he was very against the Vietnam War, big on taking measures to fight poverty, lost to Nixon but remained very active in politics his whole life. Lost to Nixon? Yeah, Graham said. She asked why I wanted to know about him. I told her that this girl I had dropped off, her family had a George McGovern sign on their front lawn. Speaking of the girl I had dropped off, it was time for a phone call. A man picked up. I asked for Linda. Sorry, I think you have the wrong number. Oh, sorry. I double-checked the number, dialed very slowly. Same response. I apologized again. Damn. Midnight to 6. I was bummed. I needed help deciphering this conundrum. There was only one person who was qualified to help me sort this out. Coop. You gave her a ride? Yeah. She must have written down the wrong number. She miswrote her own number? Dunno, dude. Followed by the sounds of bong water bubbling. This was the conversation between me and Coop from his back porch. While he smoked, laying in the back seat of his 2000 Chevy Suburban. When his bourbon crapped the bed, he salvaged the back seat and kept it in his backyard to rave reviews of all his friends. I was pacing nearby, trying to gauge the strength of me and Linda's courtship. Coop asked if I knew her name. Linda. Last name? Healy. A bulb seemed to go off in Coop's head. He sat up. Coop rarely sat up when he's high. Bundy's Healy? Huh? I didn't even understand what he said at first. That was the first girl Ted Bundy killed, Linda Healy. I stopped pacing. I took a long pause. A Coop pause level length of a pause. I took a couple steps closer towards him. I needed more. More of anything. Linda Healy. You're sure? Coop nodded, followed by him telling me, I dated a girl who loved serial killers. Millie Bush. Cool chick. Wires in my brain began short-circuiting. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. There was only one thing to do before I opened my mouth again. Drive. I booked it back to town. Everything was back. Not a hint of 70s flavor in the air. Nowhere. My barbershop, the one on the bottom floor of the 4th floor building, back. The entire building was back. All 4 stories. Brotherhood Lounge, back. Frost Me Sweet Bistro and Bakery, back. Next stop. I would never do this if I was not most definitely losing my mind, but I had to. I had to get there. To confirm what the growing maniacal thought process in my melting brain was telling me. I had to go back to Linda's house. Gone. Her house was gone. Her 1-story, comfortable, old-fashioned home had been replaced by a 2-story retrofitted duplex. There was no George McGovern sign. It was in this moment that my S10 died. Right there, outside of her house, or what used to be her house. I tried to start it up again. Nothing. I waited 2 minutes, nothing. Waited 10 minutes, nothing. Even my S10 was giving up. Her house was 11 miles from my house, but only 9 from Coop's. To Coop's I went, on foot. It took me nearly 4 hours. I needed all 4 hours to wrap my head around the thoughts. How was any of this possible? The most logical explanation was also the least logical explanation. I had to say it. I had to say it out loud. The only person who was capable of digesting what I was about to say was Coop. We had known each other for our entire lives. He had to hear me. As a best friend, as someone who has seen me at my highest highs and my lowest lows, he had to at least listen to what I was about to say. I need you to come back in time with me to kill Ted Bundy. Coop was laying down on his couch, aka the bourbon back seat. Coop took a long pause. Was he high? Or was he contemplating what to say? I'll never know. The world will never know. But I will always remember his answer. The world will always remember his answer. He sat up, put down his bong, and said, "Can we take your car?"
Your eyes shine bright like the morning sun, guiding me with love, ever on the run. Within my heart, your lights taking flight, eternal and warm through the night. In your eyes, I find my peace. In your arms, all the holy seas. Your life is a melody in the air. With every sound I know, you truly care. As the stars twinkle high up in the sky, I see my world